What is going on, everybody? It is RightX here, bringing back another VOD review. Today we're taking a piece out of Livid Sticks and Who Fishy Cares, who placed second in NA East's console and mobile FNCS finals. They made $18,500 each, and this is taken from game 2 where they actually ended up winning the game, which boosted them a ton in points. They ended up winning game 2 with 5 eliminations, most of the, well, actually I think all of them coming from Livid Sticks. And here we watch from this before they go into endgame. So they pull half and half out, they've had no frags from beforehand, and this is them going into moving zones. So where we pick off is them already set up inside of zone. They do end up pulling 50-50, and they're just lasering people who have to pad over because of the way that zone pulls, how it goes over the ocean, as we can see on the map. And if we look from a drone perspective right here, we can see that there's a lot of loot that ends up falling right within their grasp, and they do have a grappler within the they do have a harpoon in the loadout, which allows them to get that loot. There is some competition, but that's all fine. There are 2 heights established, and so they end up getting tons of free storm surge damage, and they get a refresh onto their loadouts, which is super convenient for them. They're already set up in a good position, and they get some extra tags with that heavy sniper onto that knocked body. They end up getting lots of extra fish, which gives them a lot of extra zone play potential. And what ends up happening is that they wait out this zone for the next zone to come, and things just become normal as they're able to pad. The way that zone pulls means that there's no big height established there, and because of that specifically, they can high pad without necessarily experiencing quite the same danger as if zone pulled north side or if zone pulled east side, because of the lack of a built-up height. And as we see from the natural terrain, some trees over there, it's not particularly high area, so they can just fly over, as do most of the server, and experience quite a safe journey over there onto the new side of zone. What ends up happening is that they do pad, and this right here is very important. This arguably wins them the game. So what happens, we go back in time and we watch that all over again. We reconfirm that they do have fish. They do have quite a lot of fish, as we can see. Both have a full stack of floppers, and there's an extra slurp fish on Who Fishy Cares. They land inside the zone. And because of the way zone functions and how I talked about there's no built-up height already, they can land in zone. This is something that Speedy Gonzalez actually essentially discovered or made up. This is his strategy. And they land here. There's nobody challenging them directly for height. Nobody's probably going to land on them unless they're also a psycho or has a surplus of fish. And what ends up happening is that they take height once again pretty much for free, because who's going to contest that? And when you're flying in and height's already this built up on you, there's no chance of you contesting it. And because you launch late, there's a low chance that people will then launch onto you again, right? Chances of them double padding in an aggressive way is quite low. And they're playing now edge side of zone, so they're playing edge and they're playing height as well. And as we can see, they're already topping out of metal, which is the hardest material, and so things become quite secure for them. Their whole height is quite well established now, and all they need to do is just rain some fire on below. They exchange some ammo, and as we can see from loadout, things are still looking pretty healthy. They only sacrifice 1 fish each, and now what happens is that they try to pressure out second height. The importance of them pressuring out second height instead of any other layer beforehand is that second height is actually the most convenient layer to pressure out because of how close they are. And look at how easy that loot is to harpoon in comparison to if it was Skylix or somebody that got killed. So what ends up happening is that they pressure out second height. They manage to get an elimination on that. That also helps with his surge, but they're not worrying about that by this point. They completely knock out second height, so that's all risk of them taking height directly gone. And now they establish quite a good contrast between them and mid-ground, and most of mid-ground at least. If we take a look at this, their height structure is the generic 1 on top and 1 below. Lipstick starts out with the harder material on below, and Who Fisher Cares is on top on a softer material, using much less in terms of what he's spending, being very wary of that. What this does in terms of benefiting you is that if Livid Six gets RPG'd out, they think that's height. There's another layer, and Who Fisher Cares can just take over. This makes taking height much harder, and it also gives them two different angles to work with. They are very optimal on materials. In fact, both of them still have hard materials. So this is an active switch to wood, as we can see right now. He still has over 300, almost 400 hard mats, and he makes the active switch now. So you just saved a lot of hard materials by using the wood earlier, by utilizing that instead of the precious metal that we see him using only now. What happens now is that they take care of this, and look how far ahead they are of each other. And this interesting scenario now establishes itself where there isn't really much of a mid-ground, right? By this point, due to one reason or another, and also due to the zone pulling up a small hill, a lot of people have dispensed a lot of the materials. A lot of people are already dead or only there as a solo, and as we can see, there's still some loot outstanding inside of the zone because of the way that things worked. And low grounds is essentially where most of the gathering of the people are, and this allows for placement to come much easier because they had high ground all of the time. They didn't experience the hectic mid ground, and they could just get away with not doing a lot and still getting all of that placement. They end up being able to pressure out mid ground, and what ends up happening is that they kind of stop topping out at the front, right? Livid Stick kind of forgets what made this high run work up until then. He starts playing the back of zone for no reason, because he and his teammate combined, they still have almost 110 builds, specifically hard mats as something that's still in surplus for them, and so they can disperse that at their own at their own interests. And so what they don't do is build out to the front, which they completely could and would make a much more secure high ground. And they essentially always play on the same tile, albeit at different angles. It is still much more dangerous. They end up getting RPG'd. They recover it nicely. It does use quite a lot of their materials, and it does kind of ruin their rhythm. But what ends up happening is that they don't spot who's got the RPG, and they get RPG'd again, and it happens again later on, right? It's important that he goes and tries to find who the person is with the RPG, looking at low ground, looking at where the direction of the RPG is, because that is your biggest direct threat to winning the game. And as we can see, Livid Six is struggling to even cope on his own, and Who Fisher Cares, albeit with 4 fish and all of that zone play potential, does end up getting caught off guard. He lands a shot on Skylix, but ends up getting taken out eventually, as we'll see in a minute. And Astonish was actually the one with the RPG, so it was a coordinated height take. Didn't go quite as planned, as Livid Six ends up getting still staking claim to height, but Astonish ends up taking a finish. Skylix gets dinked, and there's a small mistake here that ends up happening. He doesn't really go for the materials. He has the zone play potential, so if he times it correctly, he goes down, he gets a siphon. He's still on 100. He'll grab the mats, especially this in such a small zone. 15 builds is enough to get you to the front of zone and help you keep height if you play with the right material usage. But now he can only stay in here using his 3 remaining floppers, or 4 remaining floppers actually. I think there's a replay bug, to try and survive. That was very unfortunate timing, and he's ended up with zero mats actually on low ground, trying to take out. These are nice shots from him, good accuracy, and we see that he finds a RPG for himself. Right, so there's a minigun there, there's an RPG. Why the RPG is picked up instead of the minigun, we'll find very soon, right? Because it's so powerful in such a small zone. Because of, he realizes it's a 1v1, and because of the potential of the minigun needing to warm up, causing him to maybe get tagged up a bit more, he chooses the RPG. But also he notices, I think, the opponent is on wood, and he doesn't really have much information on the opponent. So if the opponent has builds, he finds out, because when he RPGs, the opponent will continue to build instead of trying to land a shot on him. That also indicates that the opponent's low on HP if he lands well, if he doesn't end up landing a shot on him, the opponent's playing really passively, he's low. But yeah, it can also mean he's very high on material, but he can manage to land a tag with the RPG, and that tag ends up being enough to take him out, which is very convenient for him. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the VOD review, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Engage with me. Do bring me some feedback. I want to learn what you guys want to see to improve these reviews as well. Do you guys want to see more mobile players, more console players? And make sure to follow my Twitter. The link is in the bio. And make sure to check back in this week for more reviews. I'll be bringing out more from the FNCS finals, preferably from EU as well as NA East, but we'll see how that goes.